Hey YouTube, this is Matt, also known as Next Gen Media, where I take your media next, it's Generation Media. So I saw Game Night and I thought it was really good. I saw it last night with my girlfriend Regina. There were probably about 5 or 6 other people in the movie theater, so it was pretty quiet. But yeah, I had a blast. I thought it was actually really funny. It's been a while since I've laughed that hard at a movie. So I'm hoping by the time you're watching this, that means that you've already seen the movie. I only say that because I went into this movie not knowing anything about it whatsoever. I actually thought it was like a drama, like crime movie. I didn't even know there was any comedy in it. Really, the only thing I knew about it was that Jason Bateman was in it. I surprisingly haven't seen like a single trailer or anything on it. I felt like that actually enhanced my experience when watching it. That being said, if you haven't seen it, that doesn't mean you have to go anywhere. I'm not going to spoil it, but if you're already interested in this movie, I would recommend you just watching it and don't even look up anything about it because it's really good. So the movie is directed by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein. These two guys actually helped write the screenplay for Horrible Bosses. And the movie stars Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams, and both of them did an excellent job. They were both very funny together. So the two are very competitive. We find that out very early on because they meet when they're doing trivia. It's destiny, they fall in love. And they consistently have game night with their friends. So they bring their friends over, and they also bring over Jason Bateman's brother, who's played by Kyle Chandler. So he always comes over and joins the group for game night. And one night he says, you know what, I want you guys to actually come over to my place instead. So they all end up going over to his house, and he's like, all right, so here's the idea. One of us is gonna get kidnapped, you're not gonna know when, and it's up to the rest of us to find that person. So they're all just sitting back, and all of a sudden these guys break in and start to kidnap Kyle Chandler. So everybody's like, oh, here we go. But as it unfolds, they start to realize, okay, maybe this isn't part of the game anymore, and maybe he actually got kidnapped. So that's enough of the plot. That kind of just gives you a basic overview of what it's about. So now I kind of want to get into what specifically I liked about it. Again, not really spoiler territory, just kind of going to generally tell you what I enjoyed about it. Coming in at number 1. Oh, before I start, let me just let you know this is not in any order whatsoever. So these are just 6 things that I really enjoyed about it. So number 1, the dialogue is actually very funny. So I was cracking up when I was watching this movie, even like straight from the start. I feel like part of the reason why I thought it was so funny is because Jason Bateman has this very sarcastic sense of humor, right? If you've seen him in anything, then you know that Jason Bateman is sarcastic. Like, that is just who he is. What I also liked about the dialogue is that it wasn't too raunchy. It wasn't too over the top. And I can kind of say that about this movie as a whole. It's definitely not like a realistic thing that happens in this movie. Like, they definitely branch out, and like the plot does get a little bit out there. But it's never to the point where it's like, okay, now this is getting ridiculous. Like they try to keep it, you know, somewhat grounded, which is nice. The dialogue is the same way. It's never like too raunchy. It's also kind of nice in the dialogue that you get to learn a little bit more about the characters while also laughing, right? So like the way the characters interact with each other, you kind of learn how they have relationships with one another, how they click with certain characters, but again, it's also funny. So it's kind of, the dialogue is kind of twofold. Coming in at number 2. Number 2 is the chemistry between Rachel McAdams and Jason Bateman is awesome. The two actually work very well together, which I wasn't really expecting because I'm like, I haven't seen them in literally anything before. Their relationship feels genuine. Their comedy also just works really well together. So Rachel McAdams' character is kind of like this cute, innocent, and sometimes clueless character, while Jason Bateman is, you know, a more grounded thinker, wisecracker, witty kind of guy, and he's obviously sarcastic. So that balances out really, really well. There's one scene in particular, I'm not going to really give away the specifics. If you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Jason Bateman has an injury and Rachel McAdams tries to help him. And that whole interaction, I was dead. I was dying. Number 3 is that this movie has an engaging story that keeps you guessing. So I would say that the number 1 genre of this movie is a comedy. There is, you know, the crime aspect, there's the mystery aspect. But more than anything, it's a comedy. However, that doesn't mean that the crime and the mystery aspects aren't still enjoyable, because they definitely are. There were multiple times in this movie where I was turning to Regina like, is that guy actually dead? Or are they gonna make it out of here? Just things like that where I was actually genuinely like at the edge of my seat, like what is gonna literally happen next? When you have a movie that's funny but also has an engaging story where you wanna know what's gonna happen next, that's like a home run. Number 4 is Jesse Plemons' character. When I was watching this movie, it was bothering me so much because I'm like, who is this guy? I know he was from Breaking Bad, and that's actually not what I'm going to say. I feel like everybody has been saying, oh, he's in Breaking Bad. That really wasn't what it was that was bothering me. It was that he was in Black Mirror. Anyway, getting off track, His character was so funny, probably my favorite character in the entire movie. This very deadpan character that's very awkward, very silent, kind of like a lurker in the background. And seeing him interact with all the other characters is just so funny. And I actually like cared about him as a person too. So as the movie was unfolding, I'm like, I really just want the best for this guy. But at the same time, he's also just a really funny character too. Like he's an even more comedic relief to a movie that's already very funny. And number 5, speaking of characters, I felt like every single character that was in this movie added something to it. So they kind of took a risk in the sense that this movie has like a couple different storylines. There's one overarching storyline, but there's still a couple different side storylines that the characters are involved in. And that comes with different jokes and different scenarios. So I think one of the criticisms of this movie is that side storylines, some of the side characters weren't as funny. To me, they all landed. So I mean, I felt like it was a good risk to take. I felt like it was good to kind of branch the story out a little bit. Because I found every single storyline and every single character to be honestly engaging in some way. There wasn't really one character where I was like, they should have just cut him out, or they should have cut that out. I felt like it all blended well, and it all came together by the end. So my final one is going to be a little bit of a spoiler, not a major one, but if you haven't seen the movie, I still would just stop here. I won't be offended. Here we go. Michael C. Hall is in this movie, and I say that I didn't want to give that away because he's on the cast list, right? It's not like it's like a big deal or anything, but I was so pumped when he showed up in this movie. He's not in it for very long. He's only in like the last third for a little bit of the film, but when I saw him, I was like, let's go. I love Dexter. It's one of my favorite shows. So as soon as he showed up, I was like, it's Michael C. Hall. And Regina's like, Dexter? I'm like, yes, Dexter. You bet. He is, I love Michael C. Hall. I feel like in general, he plays a good villain, so I really felt like he added a little bit to this movie. Again, another side character where I was like, yes. So I do have a 7th, kind of a bonus, all right? So I kind of lied when I said 6. Clickbait? Maybe. This movie knows what it's like to have a game really bring out the competitive side of you, right? So I feel like one of the lessons to take away from this movie is that just let games be fun. I don't know about you guys, but I have some friends that are a little bit competitive.
I was just trying to learn. See, the first one, there was another hesitation.
What? What did I do? What?
One could say even a little too competitive.
Me.
What kind of games do you like to play? Do they bring out your competitive side?
What did I do?
Do they make you want to hit your head multiple times? Let me know, and be sure to subscribe. YouTube. Hey YouTube. I can't come up with a good fucking way to say hey YouTube. Coming in at number 2 is the chemistry. I don't know why I just stretched. I'm like not tired or anything. My back didn't hurt. Don't know why I stretched. Number 2.
Yeah! First try! First try!
That's very awkward. So I think one of the criticisms of this movie is that, you know, some of the side storylines, some of the side characters weren't as funny.